Well, good thing it's Tuesday. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Nathan. I have missed you.
And I can tell you've missed me. Now that we've got all of our technical glitches out of the way, we've got a great topic actually at hand. So what I
Yeah,
was sharing with you offline is I was doing a long form interview with somebody this morning, one of our mutual friends, and he was sharing about one of the big transitions in his life, and that is basically they want to say they it's his wife and his kids. They are moving from Pennsylvania out to Colorado, but
yeah,
they sold their house, they bought another house, and they both don't have jobs. And they are making all of these big life changes, but the way that he described it was really interesting because most of our listeners are familiar with David Goggins and
yep,
his phrase of burning the boats. And so I was sharing this with James because one of the things that he said is like, we sold our house first. And that basically was the catalyst to just move everything forward. And he said it wasn't maybe financially responsible, which I can
yeah,
appreciate. And I think a lot of people struggle with this. But I really want to hone in on this example because I think it's perfect, which
yeah,
is we've all heard that phrase from a lot of the bigger, personal development personalities out there, which is just burn the boats and however you want to phrase that. But basically, like, don't give yourself another option. You can't go back. And so when James was, hey, I sold the house first, it was like, oh no, we like now we have a timeline.
we're in.
We are
Yeah,
absolutely like selling the house. We have to move no matter what we do. So we've got to figure this rest out. And this was framed in the context of the conversation where he was describing how a lot of people, a lot of his close friends and even family would say things like, "You're crazy. I can't believe you would do that. Like that's not responsible.
yeah,
You need to go find a job first, whatever it is." But we tend to make a lot of these excuses, and even James in the conversation basically said, like, "Well, you're just telling me a lot of excuses, but you're not actually doing anything to move yourself forward." So today I wanted just to, I know this was a long preamble, but I really wanted just to talk about like moments and how you get yourself to take action. You burn those boats, for lack of a better term, even if it's not something big, but you do something to force yourself to make a change.
yeah, yeah. I think that's easier said than done for a lot of people because there is such a push in society to mitigate risk.
Hmm.
So there's always a what's plan B, what's your backup, if this doesn't work out, what other options do you have? And so I think a lot of it is just ingrained in our mentality from the time that we're little,
Yeah.
all the way through our lives. And it's really hard for us to do what they are doing, which is I'm stepping off the side of this cliff. I have no idea how it's actually going to work out,
Yeah.
but I can't go backwards.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes, depending on the person and the situation, not always a great thing. And so when people make that decision to go all in, it should come through a lot of the things that you and I have already talked about, right? Alignment with your goals, moving in the direction towards them, understanding who you are, why you want them, and authentically drive towards them. And if you
Mhm.
can answer all those questions, the fastest way to get the outcome that you're looking for is to burn the boats.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was funny to me how he kind of described it without actually realizing what he did. And so I asked him in the interview, I said, "Do
Yeah.
you actually realize like this is what you did?" Of course, he said no, but I agree with your point, and I think it is a systemic problem of how people as a whole perceive problems.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I've realized the what ifs and the actual outcomes are never as detrimental as I think they're going to be.
Right.
And I say that specifically because I've struggled to pay rent. I've had to close a business. I've not made
Yeah.
massive sales. I've spent and drained a lot of my own personal accounts to move things forward, but it's never as bad on the other side as we anticipated it to be. It's like another silly example. It's like the cold plunge. Like cold plunging
Yeah.
is not that actually difficult, but it's
Yeah.
the moment of getting in the water
Into it.
that's
Yeah.
really, really hard. And so as an example of like burning the boats for me now, what I do is I don't even think about it. I literally put on my timer, I step in the water and I sit down immediately. And if I can just let gravity take over for that one instance of like sitting down, once I'm in, it's like the shock of the water, you breathe through it, and then you're there. And it's not that difficult. But we build up this facade of like the world is gonna end. If I don't have this job, how am I gonna put food on the table? And it's like, well, you have money in your account. You can find other opportunities. You can get a loan. You can talk to other people. You have credit cards. Like it's never as dire in my experience as we think. It's just getting
Yeah.
ourselves to take that first step, that first moment of action, and then not looking back until you realize, it's not that bad.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people don't want the discomfort. To your point, there are often other options, like should something go horribly wrong, there are options, but people go, yeah, but I'm comfortable in this place, or
Mhm.
I'm comfortable enough. And it's not until someone gets outside of that comfort zone, either by choice and burn the boats, or by an external circumstance which forces them to burn the boats and go in a direction, because we don't like change. We like our
Mhm.
comfort, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable. Um, the other thing that I'll say is I kind of tell my kids this, and it's more on a parental, like, protective thing, but everything is replaceable except for you.
Mhm.
And I think that actually can be representative of the scenario that we're talking about. Is it may seem like you'll never find another job, or you'll never find a relationship that's like the one you have, and the truth
Mhm.
at the end of the day is, yes, you can.
Mhm.
And so if you just take that step and you move yourself in the direction that you need to go to reach your goals,
Mhm.
you will find that those other fears and worries actually don't exist in the way that you think they will, to your point. And more times than not, something better comes behind.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I completely agree with that point. It is this built up anxiety that we give to ourselves of not knowing, and
Mhm.
that's usually what holds people in the comfort zone. And what I've really tried to do for myself is obviously I make a lot of decisions to pull myself out of the comfort zone, um, but two,
You don't say.
yeah, but two. When you think of things as a tool, like, and I think what I'm going to use as the example here is money. Like a lot of people treat
Mhm.
money as, wow, you're never going to get this back. Like you have all this, don't let it go. And in reality, if you actually listen specifically to a lot of people who are very wealthy, they use
Yeah.
the money as a tool. And you can make money extremely fast. And I think a lot of people don't perceive money in that place. It's go get this job, build, 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 build over time. It's your compounding interest. It's put money in the stock market. It's get a 401, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I can completely understand how people get there. But at the same time, if you go out and you create something and have a side hustle, or you get in a partnership with somebody, or you start your own company, there's a lot of different ways to make money. And if you use money as a tool, you can make money just as fast as you can lose it. Maybe not as fast as you can lose it, but the point is, doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be this long linear trend over your lifetime that people think it is. You can actually reset, and the more you get involved, and the more you think about it in that capacity of, hey, it's not just mine, mine, mine. It's
Yeah.
just flowing through me from this thing over to this thing. It relieves a lot of that anxiety that I think a lot of people feel when it comes to the comfort of what they currently have.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I was listening to Andy Frisella's podcast last week, and he actually talked on the subject of money and how a lot of people that accumulate wealth very quickly also lose it very quickly.
Hmm.
And the smart people learn from why they lost it in order to eventually learn to use the money as a tool
Yep.
to be able to consistently grow it. And I think the key there is not that someone has lived completely within a comfort zone and never taken any risks and therefore can't lose anything. It's there's been ups and downs, but what they gained out of it was the experience to make better decisions and more well thought out decisions aligned with their goals in the future to
Yeah.
protect what they are growing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. The book I'm currently reading is called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. So he's the co-creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul
Yep.
series.
Yeah.
And this book is awesome. Like it's talking about manifestation and visualization, but he actually, it's funny you mention the comfort and you mention those that accumulate wealth really quickly because he gives examples in the book about how 80% of lottery winners that come from non-wealthy backgrounds lose it within the first 5 years.
Yeah.
He talks about people that make money very, very quickly, always get down back down to a certain level because it is their comfortability at that level. So if you're a person that says, I can operate with $5,000 in my bank account or 15 or 20,000 or whatever your baseline number is that you feel good at, you feel comfortable at, you don't have anxiety, you're able to pay your bills, whatever. It doesn't matter how much money you make, you'll spend down to that level
Yeah.
versus somebody who is there's infinite amount of opportunity out here, there's infinite amount of money that I can be making, I'm going to go pursue that. You acquire that wealth at a different level and it continues to accumulate because you're not putting yourself at this baseline where it's like this is my comfort zone, I'm just going to get to here and then I'm going to stop spending money.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, maybe you and I had different childhoods in regard to this experience, but I can specifically remember when I was growing up and mom talking about money, and she made a comment one time, but essentially along those lines of, I just make the assumption that it will always come, and not in a I can be frivolous and I can throw it away without regard, but it's almost that deep rooted faith that if you do the things that you know are right and are aligned with the direction that you want to go, you don't need to be afraid that you won't be provided for in the future. And I
Yeah.
think that is similar to what his mindset is that he's talking about.
Yeah, you can term that as faith. You can, a lot of people put that in, God will take care of you, however you want to phrase that. In the long form video that I was speaking with James with about this morning in the interview, one of the things that he talked about is just like I just have the confidence. I've been beat up enough to know like it's going to
Yeah.
be all right. I'm going to make these big decisions, but I'm betting on myself and I'm investing in myself. This time that I'm doing, this money I'm spending, these resources I'm expelling at this moment, I know will come back to me. And that's a different level to perceive things, but that comes from experience. It comes from those trials and tribulations of getting outside of that comfort zone. And so there's a lot to be said about excuses. And there's another level of, hey, I'm going to burn the boats to get to the other side to force myself to change so that I
Mhm.
can be comfortable in whatever comes to me. And then it gets back to what you just said, which is this faith that I have in myself, this unwavering confidence of, hey, I can figure this out. I can go do this. The money's going to come. Another job opportunity is going to be here. It's just a pass through of stuff that, quite frankly, doesn't even belong to us, anyways.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about an example to help people visualize kind of what we're talking about. Um, so let's pretend I'm going out in the world. I've now been brought up and I've never done anything outside of my own community, right? And I have my experiences in my community and I'm comfortable there. And then one day I say, I'm going to go to the next city over, but I can come back. And I go and I gain new experiences because I've pushed a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I still know that I can come back if things get too uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Flip that with I make a decision and I'm moving to another city and there's nothing left to come home to. And it's a completely different outlook on what happens when I get to that different city,
Mhm.
knowing in the first scenario that I can go back,
Yep.
or the second scenario that I can't go back and now I need to figure out what life looks like here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I love that. And one of the things you just reminded me, one of the things that I tell Brie all the time is everything is temporary, right? I think it's along the similar lines of what you tell your kids, but it's money's temporary. You can lose it, you can gain it. It's a job. You can get a job, you can go create a job, you can find another opportunity. Your resources come and go. And I think it's just the acceptance of I don't know, but I've
Yeah.
invested in myself. I have confidence in myself. I'm going to force myself to do something that's going to tip that first domino, and then it's going to be okay. I'm going to have faith. I'm going to believe that everything is going to work out. And it becomes a lot less scary when you have that perception of instead of gather, 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 mine, it
Yeah.
becomes, hey, this is just a pass through. Everything is temporary. We're going to figure this out. Everything is going to be okay. That to me has really unlocked the key to take more risks, to be actually happier in life, and really try to pursue a lot more opportunities that are aligned with the authentic person that I'm trying to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. Come teach that to my kids.
I will. I was just thinking about
I
that.
know.
Awesome. All right. Well, I
All
think that's
right. Good to see
great.
you, Nate.
All right.
All
Good to
right.
see you. We'll see you
Yep.
soon.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.